Ground control to Major Tom.
We've been expecting you, Mr. Boyd.
His is the worst voice you will ever hear.
Will he offer me his teeth?
The Tommy Boyds Show will teach you nothing. Nothing.
Always read the label.
Nothing but iniquity and wickedness.
If you really bug me, then I'll say goodbye.
Morning. I am so angry I can hardly get the words out. The number is free call 0500 10 53 89. Angry in that glorious, indignant way that you enjoy. That the minute you realise that you are utterly and completely right on something and that some other people are utterly and completely wrong, but unfortunately they have the authority to do what they've done or will do again. Unless we take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. I want to talk about sex education. It's perhaps the most important thing that you can ever learn at school. Well, it is, isn't it? No, it is. And you do learn it at school, don't you? One way or the other. You either learn it out in the playground with somebody shouting something which sounds utterly ludicrous about what goes on, only it turns out that that's more or less what does happen with the birds and the bees, or else, hopefully, you're taken aside as a class, as a unit, and shown, perhaps, an extremely intelligent, corroborated, sensitive movie about what happens, one that is geared to the exact age group that's watching it, and then afterwards the teacher engages in an embarrassment-free discussion about what's been seen and answers any questions that the children will have. That's what should happen. But what happened... sorry, start again. Ladies, help me with this one. I may have missed something. I'm not going to pass final judgment on what happened at my son's school yesterday until I've had an opportunity to hear what may be, of course, a rational, valid, even sensitive and caring set of arguments to support what took place. But what took place was this. Okay. His class were going to be shown a sex education film. And it was a little bit dated, but that's another matter. We might get onto that a bit later on. It said things like, the man stands close to the woman and then becomes erect and then so on. So we were a bit worried about the datedness of it because we thought maybe he's, some child who doesn't know too much about sex, and of course they shouldn't know anything about sex, otherwise, shouldn't be shown the film, might think that whenever he stood next to a woman that might happen, which of course doesn't, generally speaking. So I wasn't convinced that the film about sex education was so good, but it was certainly better than nothing. But this is my point. This is what makes me angry. Ladies, help me with this. Nothing was what he got on the business of periods. And what happens when women grow up and become women? Because the boys were asked to leave. The boys were asked to leave whilst the bit about periods was shown. And this wasn't the school's fault, and it wasn't the teacher's fault. And I know that they all thought it was a daft thing to have to do. The governors decided that it was best that the boys didn't learn about periods in the film, in school. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Please, take away my anger by explaining to me that there is a perfectly good reason for that. It's what you would have done. They did the right thing. I must have missed something. I'm perfectly happy to take on board the idea that I have missed an important point. The only thing that I can think of that was in the governor's minds is that children, and these people are turning 11 this year. They're in the last year of what's called their junior school. So they themselves, of course, are pubescing. They are in the earliest stages of adolescence. These things are happening all around them. The only thing I could think is that some governors of the school were concerned that that boys might take the mickey out of the girls for some reason based on what they'd just seen, and it wouldn't be fair on the girls. There is an argument in favour of making sure that doesn't happen. But of course, with the work that the teacher would do after the film had been shown, the teacher could make sure that it didn't happen, or at least to make sure that it happened, to minimise it. I am cross. I think they got it wrong. I wonder what happened with you. Did anything like that happen with you? Well, you weren't, were you, taught about girls having periods when you were at school? And mankind's job is to move forward slowly but surely, securing the ground and then moving forward another few feet. And this is 1998, and we can do this now, and we should be doing this for our children's sake. They shouldn't be learning that there are some things that boys mustn't know about. This is the point, and it's a big point. Free call 0500 10 53 89. What are they up to with sex education in your child's school? And since the Easter holidays have started, and welcome to an awful lot of listeners who can't normally listen because they're sat on wooden benches, chanting, that's education for you. Welcome to this show. We know where we stand on education. A stick of jelly would do most schools, right? We'd like to know your thoughts on it. Really, really would. Let's have all voices on this one. Free call 0500 10 53 89. But please, take my anger away. Although, as I said at the top of the programme, like most people, I'm sort of quite enjoying it. That number again is free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd, and this is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
Talk to Tommy Boyd. Free call 0500 1053 89.
Sex education. Should my boy aged 11 and his classmates have been asked to leave during the sex education film for the bit about periods? I can't think of a single good reason why. Free call 0500 1053 89. Mary calls from Enfield. You're on Talk Radio. Mary, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tommy. Yes, I think they should have been asked to leave.
Oh, no!
No, I know what you're like. I know what you're going to say. My son actually is seeing the same film. He's 11 at the moment. He's not a painfully shy child, but he's not an extrovert. And I know some of the little girls that are in his class, and some of them, if they can't, say for instance, I'm not saying that all parents don't discuss this with their children, but there are parents that don't. And if they are in that situation where, say, they did want to ask the sex education teacher that is showing that film something about their period or something they really didn't understand, I just don't think they're going to... Well, when we went to the meeting last week, it was put across to us the reason that our boys wouldn't be in with the girls while that part of the film went on is because they found through past experience that if little Jane wanted to ask a question, she would just be so embarrassed in front of in front of like Jack.
So somebody at this meeting like you, because you're intelligent, should have said, okay, fine, if that's the case, show the film to both groups of people together and then have separate discussions about it or individual discussions about it, because girls might be afraid of asking things to teachers in front of other girls, Mary.
Did your son, because I've just come in on this.
No, sorry, what's wrong with that proposal?
No, I think that's actually a very good proposal.
Thank you.
And if this conversation if I'd heard this before I went to the meeting last week, I probably would have said that, but...
How can you say, here's a piece of education for girls?
No, I think they should see it, Tommy.
Which will be denied to boys. How can you
Did your son not see anything of the woman's body changing, like the period and everything? Or when it got to that section, they stopped the film and asked the boys to leave? Is that what happened? Because that's not what happened with ours.
Yeah, well, whatever. That isn't the point. The point is, the minutiae of it is neither here nor there. The simple fact of the matter is the boys were told they were not going to be shown that bit about where women have periods. They should leave. And the girls stayed seated and saw that bit. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I think Tommy actually has seen it, but not in the presence of the girls. Well, they had two showings. The boys seen the showing in the morning and the girls seen the film in the afternoon.
Okay, what happened is very interesting, but what are the opinions on this?
Well, I just still think that...
You've got to make your mind up. And this one's so easy, isn't it? So easy, this one.
I know, but is it, Tommy, it's easy to us because we're a long way down the road, but maybe to some 10 and 11-year-olds, it's not that easy.
That's the point of education. We send our children to school on the basis that teachers will know what's right for them.
I know.
This one's easy.
I know. Okay.
Well, I'm sad. I can't tell you how sad I am that you can't see this.
No, I can.
I'm
can see
mortally
what you're saying.
damaged to believe that
No,
you
I totally
can believe
agree with
this.
you,
It's unbelievable.
Well, no, okay. The last thing I want to say, because I know you've probably got 1,000 other callers, is yes, I agree
4,500.
that the boys should have seen that part of the film, but I am comfortable with their decision that they didn't show the boys and girls together.
Well, I know you are, but you haven't made a single half-decent baked argument why. You just are. That defeat, that saddens me too.
I know, but I'm sorry, Tommy. I just think some children can't cope with it, really.
My God, no, they'll never be able to cope with it as long as we assume they can't cope. Okay. To deny a piece of education for one set of people, to provide it for another set of people, is what educationalists have been fighting against for hundreds of years. It's only going to institutionalize the idea that there are fundamental differences between boys and girls, and that is sexism. Dictionary definition sexism, isn't it? Oh, crikey. Calm down. Deep breath. Paul calls from Glasgow. Paul, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon to you. Calm down, Tommy. I'm relieved, elated and delighted. Last night I attended my daughter's school where the parents were asked their opinion about sex education. And I don't believe that your sons were denied to sit in a simple piece of educational information. We had the discussion last night, and the most informative parts were the comments that came from the children on the promotional video, explaining what they saw in the video and what they derived from it. And I just can't believe that people wouldn't have it as an open part of the educational circuit.
No, it's astonishing, isn't it? You have to matter-of-factorize things like this because they are matter-of-fact.
I listened to the three comments, and I've just jotted down a few points. The lady was saying about embarrassment. Two things that I thought the school that we attended last night were very positive on. One, they say to the children, it's P6 that it's introduced to, and they say they put the children in place and give them the respect and say that they acknowledge their age, assume that they are of a level to understand it. And of course, if they start giggling and making fun of it, then perhaps they're not mature enough, so they put the responsibility back to the children. On the embarrassment sector, they have an anonymous box where questions can be posted, so if there is a barrier, the questions could all be raised in an anonymous way, but directed and answered in an open forum. And one of the most interesting comments came from a girl, a pupil in a school in Wales, who said the part that she got from the programme was that she didn't realise there was changes to boys as well as changes to girls, because she came from an all-girl family. And it didn't occur to her that the other boys in her class were also going through changes. And I just can't believe there is that today we came away last night delighted that the school had invited us in, delighted that we were able to make contribution. So we are now aware of the programme that our children are going to go through.
Scottish schools are better in every respect, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to discover that Scottish schools are the best in the British Isles when it comes to sex education, as well as absolutely everything else. But at the same time, you went to school in Scotland.
Yes.
What age are you?
37.
And how did you find out about women having periods?
I was fortunate in as much that my mother was a nurse and her mother was a nurse, and it was very open in our family. We lived with my grandparents, and
in other words, you weren't taught.
It wasn't. It was part of the. It was brought in. It was something that was open in the family, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, you weren't taught at school.
Oh no, there was no sex education in my school.
None whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
Right.
And an interesting fact is the schools are now just starting to introduce it because it's optional in the curriculum. But we went to the thing last night. There was about 50 parents there. The consensus when we came away, apart from one or two questions, was introduced properly as changing bodies, introduced as a positive aspect. And just as this happens and you've got to know about it.
Yeah.
I've got
God, you've got children who know more about death than women having periods.
Yeah, I mean, we have
Because their budgerigard dies and granny dies, but their mother's still going, no, I'm not going swimming with you today because,
No, we have a thing...
I want to stay in and wipe some surfaces down in the kitchen.
No, we have a thing in the house of badges and colours where I've had to explain to my daughter why her mum is tetchy at certain times of the month.
Aha.
And I've just said, look, your mum is having a period. The week before, if I say to you, let's go for a walk, we go for a walk.
Understood.
And if I say to you, don't think it's a good day to do this, she says, is it that time? I say, yeah, probably.
How old is your daughter?
She's 10.
Yeah.
And it's...
I've got a boy who's the same age. He knows more about periods than the girls who saw that film. But this isn't the point. This isn't... Well, it's part of the point.
Well, the interesting fact was this programme was a BBC production from Wales, and it dealt with the whole gambit of the body changing. And I'm not saying this is the panacea to the solution, but I just couldn't believe that, the girls were relieved because they started to understand periods, and it took away the fear of that. The boys suddenly didn't become a taboo word. I mean, at my school it was a taboo thing, and it was made fun of, and it was a point of derision. But I don't want that for my children. I want it to be an open, natural thing that's happening.
Paul in Glasgow, thank you for your call and wisdom and information. And I agree with you, bottom line. Free call 0500 1053 89 is the telephone number. What happened if you just arrived at the programme is this. Yesterday, a group of school governors, said that the film about sex education could be shown to the girls but not to the boys because it was about periods, so the boys had to leave. The school wasn't very happy about it. The teacher concerned wasn't very happy about it. And my son... There's nothing wrong with talking about things that are close to you, because that's what you do around the kitchen table, and that's what this show is all about. Right? My son came home and told us that he'd, for the first time in his life, been the victim of sexism, and he is right. Or have I missed something? That's the question I'm asking. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
Free call 0500 1053 89. 0500 1053 89.
If you've been thinking about a summer wedding or you're planning to make a proposal to your partner, then we've got some big news for you. We're launching the Talk Radio Wireless Wedding. We want to marry a couple live on air during the wonderful hour on Friday the 10th of July. And that could be you and yours. The entry form is in this week's Bella magazine, and Bella is on sale today. To make sure it is the most wonderful day of your life, we'll provide you with everything you need on your wedding day. The wireless wedding will take place at Amberley Castle, recently voted the most romantic hotel in Britain. The castle is also hosting the champagne reception and wedding breakfast. There's an all-inclusive 2-week honeymoon in the Bahamas, courtesy of Thompson Faraway Shores, and super clubs at the luxurious Breezes Hotel, set on the powder white sands of Cable Beach, overlooking the Caribbean. We'll also give you a top-of-the-range Sharp ViewCam video recorder, which uses the latest digital technology to record the whole event. Burkatex Brides will supply your wedding dress and the dress for your bridesmaid. Moss Bros are providing the formal menswear for the groom, the father of the bride, and your best man, and we'll send you off on your honeymoon with a luxury 3-piece set of luggage from Samsonite. You've got to do this. Get this week's Bella, and it could be you starring in our wireless wedding here on Talk Radio.
We are controlling the transmission.
This is Talk Radio.
Gillian's our next caller in West Drayton. You're on Talk Radio, Gillian. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Boyd. Just ringing to put my opinion across about the school not teaching your son about periods. Having daughters of my own and having a son, I can understand your anger, but I can also understand why the school made their decision, or the governors made their decision. I feel that boys should be taught about periods, obviously, but perhaps at a different time to girls. So we should have seen the film, but perhaps not in a room full of girls, perhaps in a room full of boys.
Well, quite. I'm all for that. But they weren't.
No, why?
Exactly.
Oh, they weren't even taught that?
No.
Oh, no. Well, that's not right.
You're back behind me, aren't you?
Yes.
100%.
Well, yes, definitely.
Let's go string somebody up.
Yes, definitely. Go down there and write them a letter. But, I mean, girls don't get taught at all. Well, I don't know why they should, really, about boys' wet dreams. Boys have to be taught that on their own. That's very important. I don't know whether schools even tackle that at all. But I should imagine that boys wouldn't feel very pleased about being taught about wet dreams in front of a room full of girls of that age. So that's the point. Also, another point...
No, this isn't working. This thing can be taken in isolation. It doesn't mean if we're going to embarrass girls, then why don't we embarrass boys? I don't like the sound of that.
No, I didn't say why don't.
That's what it smelt like.
No.
Yes.
No, I don't want any of them to be embarrassed.
Yes.
But that...
Oh, yes.
No, I don't want any of them to be embarrassed. But taking
Well, what makes you think that boys wouldn't want people talking about such things?
Well, they'd be embarrassed.
Oh, maybe the way you'd do it.
No.
Yes.
Oh, don't get into that.
Well,
anyway.
you know.
And as... Well, just an aside...
These things can be done and can be done well and can be done properly. One way or another, they have to be done. We can't rely on all parents to be able to understand these things themselves, much less teach their children.
Well, parents should be teaching their children.
Yes, we know that, but we can't rely on the fact that they do. Otherwise, we wouldn't send them to school at all, which isn't such a bad idea.
Yeah, but you can't just rely on the school to teach them.
No, so you can't rely on parents and you can't rely on school. So now what have we got?
Well, you've got to have the best of both. You can't rely on one or the other.
Yes, we know all this.
Well, I actually...
But this isn't getting us anywhere. These are platitudes.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. Don't argue. Just listen.
No, I have listened well enough, but I think you need to shape your views up.
No, I am shaping my views up.
Yes, as you're going along.
The point I'm trying to make is...
Yes?
They should be taught a lot earlier. For example...
Oh, right, that's your point, was it?
Well, yeah, if you'd let me get to it.
Well, you should have started with it, and then we would have known where you were going.
Well, no, because I was told to say that to you. But anyway...
Oh, feeble. Oh, goodness me.
This is what
all right, then repeat after me. Tommy, you're wonderful.
No.
Why not? So you'll do what allegedly the switchboard asked you to do, but not...
The switchboard didn't ask me to say that.
No, I know. You've got a mind of your own, girl.
I know I have, and I'm about to put my mind to you.
The only thing that takes away our mind of our own is schools, governors.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes, well, anyway, they
Yes.
should be taught a lot earlier. Girls start their periods, or can do, from the age of 8, and I have vivid memories of a little girl when I was at school starting her periods in the middle of class and being mocked. She didn't know what was happening to her. It was appalling. Why don't they teach them at age 8 and 9 that these things can happen to them? Because obviously some parents don't do it.
Are you a teacher?
Am I a teacher? No.
No, I am.
Oh.
And you've hit a nail on the head here. Our classes are too big. I'm for 1-to-1. Because you get 2 children together and their rate of development and needs are different. And yet you're expected to teach them at the same pace and at the same time. And you can't do it.
No, I know, but
Right.
they have all these life buzzers.
It's no good you hedge people, parents, you know, the ones who stand outside the hedge and talk about how terrible the school is, saying they ought to do this and they ought to do that.
Well, they should.
But it doesn't work like that. First of all, how do you deal with the fact that some children need to know something at 7 and other children need to know something at 11?
Well, I don't know. That's their problem. Let them sort it out.
Hey, that's their problem. Let them sort it out.
No. I mean, in an ideal world, parents would be teaching their children from as soon as they could speak, and I certainly teach and continue to teach mine about sex.
What you have to do when you have a group of children and you are teaching them, okay, all right, is you have to be alert to the needs of the individual, of course, and particularly if there are any individuals who have standout needs. And you address those standout needs individually by talking to those children about their circumstances individually. But you are, as a teacher and as a school, you are given lumps of children, 30 and 40 of them at a time. Okay. One thing that you cannot do, must not do, should never, ever do, is say, right, would those who are atheists please now leave? You never do that. You never say, would those who are of Commonwealth extraction now please leave? You'd never do that. You wouldn't dream of doing that. But there are school governors, and there are plenty of people listening to this programme who seem to think it's okay to say, we're now going to talk about girls, so will the boys all please leave?
Well, boys are going to find out about it anyway.
Oh, dear Lord!
What?
How?
What do you mean, how?
How are boys going to find out about it anyway?
Their parents.
Well, why didn't you say their parents should be required to explain it to them?
Well, they they should. Not
They'll
all
find out
parents
about
do.
it anyway.
So the school should.
Exactly my point.
And the school should explain to children about periods from the age of 8.
Boys and girls.
Well, boys and girls. So if it happens, then they're covered and they can understand.
Gillian, I appreciate the fact that you entirely agree with absolutely everything I say, but at the same time, I'm slightly embarrassed by your support. Boys will find out anyway. I'm still only just finding out. In fact, I am. I had to buy a book myself on the railway station about a year ago. I bet I know more than you do, but I still don't know enough. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Cliff calls from Milton Keynes. You're on Talk Radio, Cliff.
Hello. I was just thinking, basically I support everything you say, but I'm a father of 2 girls, and all of a sudden, since they got past the age of 11, it's all a very, very big secret. Now, I don't know why they're hiding it from me, because I'm not a bad person. I don't hit them or shout at them, and we're quite open, but for some reason, they just don't want me to know.
Sorry, what do you want me to do?
I don't know. What I'm saying is perhaps the child's embarrassment must be taken into consideration here, and perhaps we're protecting our children.
No, I don't think so.
I would bring up one other thing here, that there's what I now call the Ruskin theory, that John Ruskin, obviously you've heard of him because you're an educated man.
Well, naturally.
But he actually died a celibate because on his wedding night, his wife took off her dress and he discovered that women had pubic hair. They weren't like marble. And he died a celibate, and that was shocking, and we don't want to return to that.
Well, quite we don't.
Can I ask you something?
I wish you would.
Please. You're a teacher, or were a teacher.
No, I'm a teacher.
I'm a teacher.
Very unusual
I'm thinking of becoming a teacher.
Are you?
Do you think, is there a place for the extrovert still in teaching?
Well, that question supposes so many things. If I were to say yes or no, it would mean that I agreed with you in something that you've just said, wouldn't it? Which is what?
Which is what?
Well, you based your question on a supposition.
Do you think then that the teaching system actually crushes the individuality of the teacher? This is all a bit heavy here, but do you think it's...
Couldn't have put it better myself. And indeed, the notion of things being heavy whilst we're talking about things being crushed is not a difficulty at all.
Oh, well...
Yes. Yes, it does crush the individuality out of children, yes.
So how can you remain a good teacher when you're teaching within a state system with 30 or 40 kids?
Oh, you can still be a good teacher.
Mm.
You know, you can still be a good driver if you've crashed the car, because you might have crashed it sooner if you were a bad driver.
Mm.
Yeah. You see my point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm at the moment, I'm a mature student. I'm 42, and I'm seriously thinking about going into teaching.
Which age group?
I would like to teach seniors. I want to teach the horrible 15-year-olds, because I was an horrible 15-year-old, which is incidentally about the same period I learnt about periods.
Okay, and here's a difficult question. There's only one answer to it. What do you want to teach them?
History.
No.
Why not?
Wrong answer.
Why not?
Totally wrong answer.
Totally wrong answer.
Yeah.
I'd love to teach them something else, but that's about the only thing I'm qualified for. But I would just like to teach. When I worked in a factory, I used to teach apprentices. And now as a student, I'm teaching fellow students, and I just enjoy teaching. I love passing information over. Sorry, this isn't really what you wanted to talk about, was it?
Everything.
Teach them everything.
Everything.
Absolutely everything.
Everything. Then they can make up their own minds.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I know. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Paul calls from Lyme Regis. You're on Talk Radio, Paul. Good afternoon.
Hi, Tommy.
Paul.
I've been listening to your show for quite a long time now, and I've heard you whinging about the education system time after time after time. Why do you not home educate your children?
Certainly considering it. Yep.
Why do you let other people who you don't know be responsible for the way your children are brought up?
That's a very good question.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, what I try and do then, when I've asked a good question, is see if I can work out what the answer should be. So go ahead.
Well, I'm asking you the question, and I've done that myself. I've got 3 boys. And
oh, right. Okay. Well, good for you. You're great. You're also unemployed.
Who is?
You are.
No, I'm not. I run a business.
Well, you don't run a business as well as you might.
But I prioritise and put my children first. And I put my business slightly second.
Yeah. I have to say that, what age are your children?
7, 5 and 3.
Yeah, I have to say that it is what we want to do, without talking too much about the dynamics of my own marriage, because, well, since you raised it, that is about what you're talking about, isn't it?
That comes into it, yeah.
It's what we're looking at. But my wife and I, because my wife is a lecturer in learning development.
Mm-hmm.
She knows her onions. She's actually my wife lectures other people in how to lecture on the way in which people learn. So she's up towards the top of that Christmas tree. And I find myself in a position where I enjoy learning. And I think one of the things, and it's only one of the small things that happens on this show, is that, everybody finds themselves thinking, yeah, I suppose I hadn't thought that before.
And that's education, it's brilliant.
That's educational as well. Okay. We've, like a lot of people, worked ourselves into a position whereby we would have to change our lifestyle dramatically if we were to teach our children at home.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is teach our children at home when they are at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And continue to trust the school with them Monday to Friday, 9 until 3. And let me say this as well. The school that they go to is very, very good. And I'm not whinging about the school here. I'm whinging about the governors.
We've had the same problem down here.
Just for the sake of absolute clarity, I don't have any beef about the school that they go to at all.
Oh, right.
But did you not pick that up?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, we got there in the end, didn't we?
Yeah.
Slight confusion. Not to worry. But as far as the business of structured education goes, I think you should always be hammering away at it and saying it should be a lot better, because it should, shouldn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's all, really.
Well, we envy you.
Do you?
I think you've got it right.
Well, you could always change your lifestyle, Tommy.
Well, it's being considered. You do, don't you? You have to. Everybody should consider that.
Which is more important?
Don't make it a pressure, though. You're making it a pressure. You're making you're making it sound as though I'm not entitled to my opinion unless I do all the things that are my opinion. And that wouldn't be very good, would it? Because I'd have to decide whether to go and dig a water well in Ethiopia, or start a hamburger stall in Rwanda, or go to Bosnia with an ambulance, But you're still entitled to those opinions, aren't you? Even though you can't actually build it into your own life?
Mm-hmm. But I don't think you can complain about how other people bring up your children, though. Because if you're handing it over to them, when you send your child to school, you're handing over all their values and they're inputting that into your children every day.
Yeah, you're getting sloppy here. You should have shut up about 2 minutes ago. You're getting sloppy here, and you can tell that, surely. It's because you hand your children over to other people that you should be complaining if you feel that something is wrong. You can't say you can't complain if you hand them over. Yes, of course you can. You should be. And you should also be congratulating, because so much good goes on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I take your point.
Yeah. Nice crossing
Tommy.
swords. Yeah, enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Back to your children.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, free call 0500 10 53 89. We found ourselves talking about education. If we back up to where we were when we started the programme, it's really about sex education and the sexism that can emerge in sex education in schools. I have a boy who's 11, and the boys were asked to leave the sex education film that they were shown yesterday. It was the governor's idea, not the school, because they felt that boys didn't need to know about periods. But obviously, girls did. And my son was cross about this, and I'm right behind him, and I'm on his side. And I'll never forget the day my dad went down to the school to give our headmaster a piece of his mind, because our headmaster had told my young brother that he had to get his hair cut. And my dad said to the headmaster, nobody tells my son to get his hair cut, except me. And they called it a draw. And I was that proud. I made up my mind. If my son came home from school indignant about anything that happened to him at school, I'd be right on his side. But I am. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Have I missed something, though? Have the governors got something right that I simply haven't spotted, for whatever reason, because of the generation I belong to or the gender I belong to? My number again is free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening. Nicola calls from Kent. You're on Talk Radio, Nicola. Good afternoon.
Good evening. Good afternoon, Tommy. I've got a 6-year-old son who I've taught from the word go about my periods. I've got a 5-year-old daughter as well. And I've taught him absolutely everything about it, of why I bleed once a month, why I get crabby the week before I do it, everything that I use. So that when he does get to 11, if they show him something at school, he'll just take it for granted. It'll be a case of, sort of, why are you showing me this? I already know about it anyway. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. So the girls would not need to be embarrassed about it, because he takes it for granted. That's what happens.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, good work. The world is safe with mums like you, Mrs.
Yeah, but then there's not always going to be mums like that who are going to teach their boys that.
No.
So it's still got to be shown at school.
Exactly.
And then what could you say? That if they show it to everybody,
yes,
then if they do find that there are some children who have a problem with it, take it on further with those individual children afterwards.
Nicola, stay on the line. I want to bring Sue into the conversation.
Okay.
Sue's calling from Colchester. You're on Talk Radio as well, Sue. Hello.
Hello, Tommy.
Sue, Nicola's here.
Hello.
But what were you going to say?
I was going to say, why do you think 1 in 3 marriages break up these days?
Go on.
Purely through lack of communication between the opposite sexes. And if it starts at school between 10-year-olds, what hope is there for us?
A very good point.
I was horrified.
Very well
my
made.
husband was as well, that my 10-year-old son was segregated from the girls at school when it was talked about. It's an emotional thing as well, not just the fact that they have periods. When eventually they get married, wouldn't they want to know why their wife is a bit upset at that particular time of the month?
I'm glad we've got this one right.
But then, Tom?
Yo.
My husband, my husband's 30 now.
Yes.
His mum did it to him as well.
Right.
His mum taught him exactly the same.
That's interesting, you see, because
boys.
I did get the impression that this could be a bit of a generation issue as well as a gender issue.
Yeah?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's our job to do this better than the generation before us.
Yeah.
And our children's generation, it's their job to do it better than we did. Which hopefully they will.
Yeah.
But let's stay with us, Sue and Nicola. Reg has called the programme. Reg, I think, is going to represent the old guard in this one. Reg.
Hello?
Welcome to Talk Radio.
Yes.
What?
I heard you tell a previous caller, when he said he was interested in teaching history, you said, and I quote you, wrong answer. A very arrogant remark. And then you went on, may I finish? Then you went on to tell him it was the wrong answer because he should be teaching, and I quote again, everything. Your words.
Yes, I think we all heard that, Reg.
Sorry?
We all heard it.
That's the first time. That's the first time I've said the word everything.
We don't do action replays on the show.
Yeah, you said he should not be teaching history. He should be teaching everything.
Yeah.
What a naive, arrogant reply. Do you actually believe, sir, that you're capable of teaching everything? There is no human being capable of teaching everything to any other human being, far less a child.
See, Sue and Nicola...
Are you capable of teaching
this is what I have to deal with.
Integral calculus?
You see, this is what I have to deal with. I mean, does anybody want to have a word with him, Sue, Nicola?
Let me finish.
He's still on, you see.
I think it'll just go in one ear and out the other ear. He's got his opinion, he wants to stick to it, and that's it.
Well, why do you keep interrupting? Why don't you listen to my opinion?
Well, because you haven't voiced one really yet. Reggie's just been rude.
My opinion is that you are too arrogant to be a teacher.
You don't...
And I've told you why.
Yes.
Because you believe that you are actually capable of teaching everything.
No, you see, he didn't... Who's it, Sue or Nicola there?
Oh, both of us.
Is it both of you?
Nicola's there.
Yeah, good. You see, what he didn't understand is that, you don't say you don't teach history. But what you try and do when you're teaching history is to teach everything, because everything comes into history, you see. And you can try and teach everything, because everything is everything that you know. So, Reg? He's gone. See, Sue and Nicola, this is what we're up against, ignorance.
Well, maybe he went to an all-boys school.
Yeah. Don't worry, the likes of him will be gone soon, and if we carry on teaching our children the way we are now...
Yes.
That generation will be gone soon.
It's a listening problem, isn't it, don't you think?
Yeah, we'll have a new generation of boys who can understand everything to do with them, themselves, and women as well.
Yes.
And they won't be embarrassed by it. There'll just be no need to be embarrassed by anything because it'll just be taken for granted.
Ah, these are grand words. I love it. Now, off you go. Who's got to collect children?
10 minutes, bye.
Yes, I've got to go.
Both of you. Both of you.
And my husband phoned me to listen to this programme.
Oh, did he?
So I feel like me and him are on the same wavelength because he's very open-minded about it all, and we all discuss it as a family at the table.
Marvellous. Off you go. Mention it outside the railings, won't you?
Will do.
All right.
Bye. Thank
Bye
you,
now.
bye.
This dip in the numbers, 3:30, it's because a substantial chunk of the audience go and collect children from school and can't wait in the car, have to obviously be at the railings, which is cool, which is great. And, you know, I don't mind. Yes, I do mind. Yes, I do mind, actually. What you do, if you have to go and collect children, all right, is fake the ratings. All right? If somebody says, and do you listen between 2 and 4, you say yes. And if they say, is there any point of the show when you are not listening, don't say 3:30 when I'm collecting the children. Just say, I leave them in the playground until 4 o'clock. I'll be perfectly safe. Of course, you don't do that, but that's what you say. We'll move on in the next hour of the programme. It's payback time for a member of the animal kingdom, which has, quite frankly, had it too good for too long. That's between 3 and 4. But now we'll just dot the I's, cross the T's, wipe the noses on sex education in school. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening. 10 Talk Radio, Catherine. Hello.
Hello, Tommy. I've been listening to your show for some time, and I think you and I are about the same age. So up until about a year ago, I felt exactly the same as you about the sex education. But something happened last year which changed me, and that was I got pregnant for the first time. I'd adopted 3 children, so I'm a mother already. Oh. But I got pregnant, and I had to go to antenatal classes, you know, to learn about childbirth and so on. The midwife used to insist that it was girls only, or ladies. And I thought that was a bit odd, because I'm open-minded, and I like to talk amongst everybody, you know, men as well. Don't think there's any problem with men, you know. And the thing was, I then realised why she actually segregated us when one night all the fathers were allowed to come along. And most of the girls clammed up. And it was just a totally different discussion that night compared to the other 7 or 8 nights that we'd had women only.
No, but this is unsatisfactory, and this is what has to be changed, isn't it? This is wrong.
Yeah, well, no, I disagree. I think because...
Oh, really? Why is that, then? Why is that right? Why is it good that women are embarrassed in the company of men?
Well, they shouldn't be. I wasn't.
Right.
I reckon
so
out
it's
of
wrong.
a group of 15 women, I was the only one who didn't change myself. There were quite a lot of assertive women in my group.
Sorry to keep it rolling along, but I have to.
Yeah.
So it's wrong, then, that women are embarrassed in the presence of men?
Yes.
And it shouldn't happen?
I agree.
And we should change it?
Yes.
And we should start in schools?
Well, I don't think we should start with something so important as sex education, where little girls aged 10 are going to be very embarrassed in front of boys.
So you think that we can
manage... There's other
manage...
ways of teaching children not to be embarrassed.
And they are...
Don't know. You're the teacher.
Yeah. Oh, right. You know that there are other ways, but it's for me to work out what they are. Oh,
well,
Oh, thank you.
I felt what should have happened in your son's school, you know, and my husband's a governor, by the way, but anyway, is that the film should have been shown separately to the boys. That they should still know about the periods, but perhaps they should have actually had a separate hearing. So there are none of these silly giggles and all that sort of thing. But I know I take your point that really perhaps we should learn that girls shouldn't be embarrassed. Yeah.
There's a $64,000 question here.
Mm-hmm.
Is embarrassment learned or innate?
Ooh.
Ah. And then you know the answer to that one, then everything is easy.
Environmental. It's got to be. It's got to be taught in the home.
Well, we don't know the answer, do we?
No, we don't.
No. So we've got a best guess.
Yeah, well, it's quite interesting because I've adopted 3 girls, and I sort of think about this all the time because is what they've got genetic or environmental? Are they going to change through me bringing them up, or are they going to revert to what they were like before? You know, so I have this sort of debate all the time, actually, in my own mind.
Sure.
I don't know. Embarrassment is there, isn't it? I haven't got it. That's why I'm talking to you on the radio about sex education.
Yes. Well, thank you for your thoughts, Catherine. I'm grateful. Free call 0500 1053 89. We're going after an animal in the next hour of the programme, but Jan calls now from Worthing. You're on Talk Radio. Jan, hello.
Oh, hi. Am I on?
You are.
Okay. Yeah, Tommy, I rang because my daughter came home from school yesterday after having had the first part of their sex education class, and they were segregated, boys and girls. And the note we got beforehand was actually just saying that the outline would be that the girls would be given the full details about menstruation and the boys would be given details about all the changes that they're likely to encounter coming through puberty, together with an outline of menstruation. And so, I mean, I thought that was quite sensible, but I mean, the kids' perspective was that they were okay with that, and it was all a bit giggly, as well as being, you know, sort of they were able to ask questions, etc., etc. But the boys seemed to be more concerned about the fact that they didn't come away with a goodies bag. Yeah, the girls actually got like little goodies bags to bring off.
Hey,
Yeah.
maybe people should have sex education parties for children instead of doing it at school. If a parent, takes a course or something, or maybe they could, instead of children's entertainers, you'd have, a sex expert could come round and there would be games, just fun games, and then the sex education person would do something, explain something, and then, as you say, there'd be goodie bags, and everybody would go home, there'd be balloons on the gate, and the whole thing would be closer to the kind of social environment where it's appropriate. He suddenly noticed and decided he'd had a good idea. Whilst he was talking.
Except they're still at the age where they don't want boys at their party if they're girls, and vice versa, I assume.
Yeah, again, you've got to get it right, haven't you? Jan, listen, we've hit on what should have been the hook for the hour with 8 seconds left.
Well, then the boys actually, their tone on it was actually, the main change that they got the grasp on was that something was going to happen in their neck.
Yeah, in their neck?
Yeah,
because...
the Adam's apple.
Oh, why?
Well, I think they got the impression that their Adam's apple would grow. Because I asked my daughter what the boys
I'm sorry,
thought.
look, we got no, stay there. We've got a stack of news to do. I have to find out from you, though, after the news, before we launch our attack on a member of the animal kingdom, why the boys thought that they would get an erection in their Adam's apple. Because somebody got something wrong. So stay there. And you stay there as well by the radio. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There is a good argument for listening.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.